my name is Jake. I have a really interesting video for you today. I asked ChatGPT how to start a dividend portfolio. If you're not familiar with what this is a new AI technology. It's supposed to take over the world. That's what I've been told. I think it's really interesting to see how AI would tackle this idea of trying to retire early off of a dividend portfolio. I've been trying to achieve that for many years, and I've done it through my own research, things that I've learned, personal experiences. But I was really curious to see how an AI technology would approach this idea of starting a dividend portfolio. So the approach that I took in this video is I wanted to ask ChatGPT a handful of questions in a few different ways. So the first question that I asked was how to start a dividend portfolio. Now this is very vanilla, very broad, and I'm curious to see what the technology is going to have to say to that. But to take it a step further, the next question that I'm going to ask ChatGPT is how to start investing in dividend stocks, okay? Without giving any context to who I am, my income, my expenses, my understanding, my risk tolerance. Then the next question that I'm going to ask is to build a dividend portfolio for a 10-year time horizon. Now, time horizon, when I talk about time horizon, I'm talking about when I plan on living off of the dividend income. So I'm no longer investing into my portfolio. I'm no longer reinvesting the dividend, but I'm receiving the dividends. I'm withdrawing the dividends to pay for my living expenses. How to live off a dividend portfolio. Now, once again, all of these questions are pretty broad, okay? They're not specific to any single individual or scenario. So the first four questions are very generic and very broad. The last question that I'm going to ask is very unique and very specific to my wife and I's situation. And I'm curious to see what ChatGPT is going to say for us specifically. Now, this type of technology is very new, and a lot of people are anxious about what this is going to mean for them in their own personal lives. Is this going to take their job? Are they going to be then rendered irrelevant to what they're doing? And I think it's really too early to say. I think technology and innovation is a positive for society. It's obviously going to impact people differently and disproportionately. And it probably looks a little like this.
You're gonna take my job? They took my job! Took my job! He took his job! He took it, girl! Took it there! Buck it there! Took it there! Buck it there!
Oh my gosh. All right. So the first question that we're going to ask ChatGPT is how to start a dividend portfolio. So it says here that starting a dividend portfolio can be a great way to build long-term wealth and generate a reliable source of passive income. Here are some steps to consider when starting a dividend portfolio. So this is really interesting. It says steps to consider. This does not mean that it's a foolproof for everyone. This is just a way for I found this interesting that it's not saying this is the one and only way to do it. These are things that you should consider when you're starting a dividend portfolio. First, it says here to determine your investment goals. So before you begin building your dividend portfolio, you need to have a clear understanding of your investment goals. And then it says here, are you looking to generate income, grow your wealth, or both? Knowing your goals will help you determine which dividend-paying stocks are the best fit for your portfolio. I really, really like this. I think a lot of people just go in blind and start investing into dividend stocks or dividend ETFs, and they don't really know what they're doing. They don't know their goal or their destination. I talk a lot about that on my channel, that you have to know your destination so that you can pick your vehicle, the right vehicle to get to your destination. So going on here, research dividend paying stocks. Okay, so once you've determined your investment goals, you need to research dividend-paying stocks. Look for companies with a history of paying consistent and increasing dividends over time. You can find information on dividend-paying stocks from various financial websites, news outlets, and company annual reports. Moving on here, it says to consider diversification. It's important to diversify your dividend portfolio to reduce risk. This means investing in stocks from different industries and sectors. You can also consider investing into exchange-traded funds, ETFs, or mutual funds that focus on dividend-paying stocks to achieve greater diversification. Okay, I like that they bring up ETFs here. They talked about just stocks here. So I do like that. Let's go on here to number 4, determine how much to invest. You should have a clear understanding of how much money you can afford to invest in your dividend portfolio. It's important to only invest what you can afford to lose and avoid taking on too much risk. Okay, pretty straightforward. Number 5, monitor your portfolio. Once you have started your dividend portfolio, it's important to monitor it regularly. Keep track of your dividends, reinvest them, and consider rebalancing your portfolio periodically to ensure it stays aligned with your investment goals. Okay, I can get on board with that. And then lastly here, seek professional advice. If you're new to investing, seeking the advice of a professional financial advisor can be helpful in creating a solid investment plan and managing your dividend portfolio. And then lastly, remember, building a dividend portfolio takes time and patience. It's important to focus on the long term and stick to your investment plan. So all in all, when it comes to this question and what we saw here, I was impressed, but it is very high level. This, for me, is an entry point to do additional research and understanding of how to put together a dividend portfolio for you and your time horizon and your goals. But I think overall, it's pretty sound advice. Now moving on to the next question, how to start investing in a dividend stocks. So investing in dividend stocks can be a great way to generate passive income to grow your wealth over time. Here are some steps to get started. So once again, talking about the passive income, and here are steps. It doesn't talk about considering. So it's just issuing or just saying, hey, these are the steps that you should take a look at. First, you should educate yourself on the stock market, read articles and books. Second, you should choose a brokerage where you can invest into stocks and ETFs. And third, it says here, decide on your investment strategy. Okay, I think this is interesting. Before in the last one, it says you should set your goals, or your strategy was the very first. So it's a little bit of a different mix up here with this variation of the question. Number 4, do your research. Okay. Once you have educated yourself, you've chosen a brokerage, you've decided on what investment strategy, and then you're doing your research, and then you're monitoring your portfolio. So this is a bit interesting. So you can see how the question was phrased, how to start versus starting a dividend portfolio. This is more so like, how do you get started in investing altogether? So the response that we got here was a lot more high level, whereas with this question, we got more detailed in terms of actual actionable steps to take to starting a portfolio versus how to start investing. So my takeaway with this question here and how the response was generated is it's more skewed towards very, very entry level new investors who have never started to invest before. So pretty interesting difference between this question and the one that we just looked at. The next question here, build a dividend portfolio for a 10-year time horizon. When building a dividend portfolio for a 10-year time horizon, it is important to focus on companies that not only have a history of paying dividends, but also have a strong likelihood of continuing to pay dividends in the future. Here are 10 stocks that can make up a solid dividend portfolio. So I really, really like this, that it's not just talking about the dividend itself, but it's also growing and that they're going to continue to pay a dividend, right? So I like that. Now, as you can see here, all it does is list off 10 companies that you could consider investing in if you have a 10-year time horizon. And one thing that I think is interesting here is it's all in how the question was asked. It says, because I'm saying build a dividend portfolio, and I'm not asking the question how to build a portfolio or how to start building a portfolio. I'm saying, hey, build a portfolio for me. And so that's a very important distinction when you have to look at each individual word in the question, because the response is going to be dependent upon that. I mean, it sounds obvious, but just one single word can completely change the response that the AI would would or should provide here. So a couple of things I want to highlight just with a few of them, that there's really a trend that I found really interesting. So it talks about, dividend kings, dividend aristocrats right here. So let's read the first couple of them. So Johnson & Johnson is a healthcare conglomerate with a long history of dividend payments. The company's products are in high demand, making it less susceptible to economic downturns. So moving on here, I want you to see if you can see the trend. I've already highlighted a few of them. So Coca-Cola is a classic dividend stock with a long history of steady dividend increases. It has a wide economic moat thanks to its strong brand recognition and global distribution network. Going on to Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is a consumer goods giant that owns a portfolio of well-known brands, including Tide, Crest, Pampers. It's a reliable dividend payer with a strong competitive position. So it talks about the history or the reliability of the dividend stock, right? And then it talks about their competitive advantage, okay? And it does this continuously with the rest of them, okay? And so I found that really, really interesting that, when it's talking about here, focus on companies with a history of strong dividends and that are going to continue to pay dividends, right? So this is the history and this is their ability to continue paying dividends. I found that interesting. Maybe your normal person or just somebody looking at this maybe would have not have noticed that, but I found that pretty interesting. The next question here, how to live off a dividend portfolio. Living off a dividend portfolio means you rely on the regular income generated by the dividend-paying stocks in your investment portfolio to cover your expenses. Here are some steps to follow to live off a dividend portfolio. First, build a diversified portfolio of dividend-paying stocks. Okay. Second, determine your required income. Third, reinvest dividends. Fourth, monitor your portfolio. Fifth, adjust your portfolio as needed. And then sixth, consider professional advice. Very similar to what we saw earlier in the first one, right? So how to build a dividend portfolio, 6 steps, and you probably can see a trend. Determine your investment goals, research, diversification, how much, and monitor. It's the almost the exact same thing. So it's a similar question asked a different way, which generated a similar response. So I thought that was interesting. And then lastly here it says, keep in mind that living off a dividend portfolio requires a long-term approach and may not provide as much income as other investment strategies. It's important to understand the risk and rewards of investing in dividend-paying stocks and to have realistic expectations about the potential returns. I like that. I think it's whenever you ask investment advice or stocks here, they always give like their disclaimer, right? Like every YouTuber ever, disclaimer, not financial advice, and then proceed to give financial advice. Oh man, gotta love it. Okay, so those are the first 4 questions that were asked in a more broad way. Next, I want to ask a question that's more specific to my wife and I in our situation, and I've not looked at the results before, so I'm looking at this for the first time, and I'm curious to see what the response will be. So first, I'm going to say the question here. My wife and I are 36 years old, and we have a 2-year-old son. We want to retire as soon as possible. We need $8,000 in monthly dividend income. How should we build a dividend portfolio to quit our jobs and retire early and live off our dividend portfolio? So let's see what the AI here will generate for us. And let's see if we can take any actionable steps from what it's saying.
A few moments later.
As an AI language model, it's important for me to remind you that I cannot provide personalized investment advice, and there are many factors that need to be considered, such as your risk tolerance, financial situation, goals, and time horizon. However, I can provide some general information and guide you to help make an informed decision. Okay, that sounds like every YouTube video out there. Not financial advice, but I'll give you an answer anyways. I love it. Firstly, retiring as soon as possible and living off a dividend portfolio is a long-term goal that requires careful planning and patience. Okay, it's important to keep in mind that building a dividend portfolio requires a significant amount of capital and a well-diversified portfolio to mitigate risks. Additionally, investing in dividend stocks requires a thorough understanding of the companies and industries you're investing in. Okay, I can agree with everything that it says. Pretty spot on. Here are some general steps you can take to build a dividend portfolio. So first here it says, set realistic goals. You mentioned that you need $8,000 in monthly dividend income. This means you need to accumulate a portfolio that generates $96,000 in annual dividend income. While it is an ambitious goal, it is not impossible. However, you need to make sure that this goal is achievable based on your current income, savings, and expenses. Okay, so interesting. It doesn't talk about any dividend growth rates or dividend yields or anything like that. So pretty generic. Okay. Second, determine your risk tolerance. Okay, very good. Different stocks carry different level of risks. Some companies paying higher dividends but may have a higher risk of bankruptcy or dividend cuts. On the other hand, some companies pay lower dividends but are more stable and less risky. Before investing, you need to determine your risk tolerance and invest accordingly. Okay, pretty sound. Diversify your portfolio. Diversification is key to mitigating risks in any investment portfolio. A well-diversified dividend portfolio should include stocks from different sectors and industries and should not rely on one or two stocks to generate most of the income. I agree with that very well. There's no talk of ETFs, but diversification and not relying on one or two stocks to generate most of your income, I think is pretty key. Fourth here, consider reinvesting dividends. Reinvesting dividends can help you compound your returns over time, which can lead to significant long-term gains. Many brokerage firms offer dividend reinvestment plans, so DRIPs, which automatically reinvest dividends to buy more shares of the same company. Okay, pretty sound. So reinvest your dividends. And then lastly, consider seeking the advice of a financial advisor. A financial advisor can help you determine the best course of action based on your personal financial situation, goals, and risk tolerance. Okay, so you probably have noticed a trend as well, but I'll get to that in a second. In summary, retiring early and living off a dividend portfolio is an ambitious goal that requires careful planning, patience, and a well-diversified portfolio. Before making any investment decisions, make sure to consider your financial situation, goals, and risk tolerance, and seek the advice of a financial advisor if needed. Okay, so pretty generic, pretty basic stuff. Even though I gave a more specific scenario, there was no talk of dividend yields, growth rates. I mean, they talked a little bit about that. But the trend that I want to, that's pretty evident here is set realistic goals. This seems very familiar with the first one, right? Your investment goals, right? What did we learn here? Determine your investment goals. So this is from this first one. Going back here, determine your risk tolerance. Okay, risk tolerance, diversify your portfolio, consider reinvesting your dividends, and seek financial, advice from a financial advisor. So all in all, I like the response, but it is a little bit still, it's very broad, right? And this may be how the AI is set up, right? Where when it comes to, specific topics, where there maybe be legal ramifications, especially with finance and investing and all of that, they probably trained the AI or programmed it to be a little bit more conservative in how it responds, but pretty generic. I think it can be helpful if you're brand new to this. It can help guide you in the right direction, but it's not going to be enough to really help you reach that goal. At least that's my impression of it today. So I guess lastly, my thoughts on using AI to learn how to invest or how to build a dividend portfolio or everything in between. Like with any new technology, if used correctly, it can make us more efficient and productive. But also like with everything else, it never hurts to get a second opinion. I see ChatGPT or similar technologies like this, whether now or in the future, as a great resource to gain new insight or understanding about a topic, in this case, how to start a dividend portfolio. I currently see AI technology like this, like the one that we reviewed today, as painting with a broad brush, and the responses generally appeal to the masses, which is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Even when asking a more specific question around the time horizon or my situation, the AI gave a fairly generic response, which I guess at this point should be expected. There's a reason why they call it personal finance. It's personal to every individual. I hope this video was helpful and gave you a glimpse into how AI could be used to start a dividend portfolio. Thanks for watching, and if you liked today's video, please consider subscribing.
Please subscribe.
Subscribe.
Please subscribe. Sakar para, eh?
You know what? I think we're gonna be friends. Can everyone say hi to my friend? That's crazy. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.